There are 3 games left before the game, and the urgency and intensity around this building are picking up accordingly. We are at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is a Thursday, and there are 3 things to talk about with Ohio. There's way more than 3.
So many things.
But that's the gimmick on a 3 Thoughts Thursday on the beat. He's Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. And Ryan Day sort of set the tone for this on Tuesday, Birm, and then just arriving as we were talking about this before practice on a Wednesday afternoon. The microphone was ramped up over there on the practice field. The pads were already popping. And I get the sense that all this battle against complacency for Ohio State and that Ryan Day is waging constantly, he is refusing to lose it.
Because if there was a time you were going to have it, it's right now. Because you look at the schedule and you see Purdue, which has not won a game against a Power 4 opponent in the last 2 years. They're 0-17 against Power 4 opponents in the last 2 years. That's pretty tough to get excited for. Yeah, I mean, Ryan Day can talk to his team and be like, hey, I was there in 2018 when this happened. Stranger things can occur. I'm sure he's put on the Purdue-Michigan tape and had the team be like, this is a tough team. But then you're like, fine, okay, we get past Purdue, then you got UCLA, then you got Rutgers. Like, if there's a moment where a team looks ahead and says, hey, we could maybe have 9 games left, and then you start to feel any sense of complacency, this would be the time.
There's part of me, Birm, and I know that this is not how coaches, I know this is not how players operate, but if I was Ryan Day right now and Purdue, because it could go either way, Purdue pushed Michigan to the brink, but there were so many opportunities, primarily that Bryce Underwood missed in that game, that, and this is a couple weeks removed, Purdue just lost and got shut out by Northwestern 2 weeks ago. Like they have struggled, but it's sort of like a catch-22 because you could turn on that film and say, look at this. Mm-hmm. Purdue pushed your rival into the fourth quarter. And then the flip side of that would be thinking about how Michigan is vulnerable right now, and then maybe fast forwarding and thinking too far ahead about that one is like, maybe you just ignore the most recent game. And I know that that's not what's going to happen, but there's part of me that would at least consider it.
Well, you can also put on the Purdue tape versus Notre Dame. Like, they've had moments this year where you look at them and you're like, obviously they're not talented. Like, they've added some stuff in the transfer portal, including like guys from Georgia, USC, their quarterback, Ryan Brown, is kind of difficult. So, I mean, I've watched him do a lot of things this year. I don't know why I've watched Purdue as much as I have, but they've just been on TV. But
masochist.
They've done some nice things with Ryan Brown, and I think he's actually a good challenge for the defense because he likes to scramble. He gets out of the pocket. He's like a bigger Parker Navarro without the talent that Ohio has.
Oh boy,
which is hard to say, but it's definitely a game where you can look at this and you understand why we're expecting, as we record this an hour and a half before practice ends on Wednesday, to hear a very serious, a very direct, a very business-like Ryan Day tonight. So I don't think that there's any concern. This team has not, they've avoided that. Adam King asked Ryan Day about it on Tuesday, and I obviously made fun of him for it a little bit on Snap Judgments or the beat.
And now you're doing it again now.
But the point is well made. Like, Ohio State has not suffered this sort of letdown against Ryan Day or with Ryan Day as the head coach, and I don't see any reason to worry that that's going to happen this weekend, especially now that the weather is saying 62 degrees and only a 20% chance of rain.
You just keep falling for it.
I'm just saying.
Well, you shouldn't be saying anything because you're jinxing it.
In a normal world, every other time we've gone to Purdue, those percentages the temperatures have gone down and the rain has gone up as we get closer to the game. This week it's not. Maybe, just maybe.
No.
Illinois, Wisconsin, just beautiful weather on the road all year. Washington, perfect weather all year long on the road. It's been perfect.
Why are you doing this?
Because I don't believe in you, weather gods. You don't scare me.
They've scared you as long as I've known you. So what do you think then Ryan Day wants to get out of this particular game? So if we treat it, and I know he won't say it, and I know Ohio State can't really act that way, that they're going to take every game, every practice, every moment one at a time. But if you have 3 weeks and the first of those 3 tune-ups before the game is at Purdue, what do you think he most wants to get accomplished on Saturday against the Boilermakers?
Just win the game. I mean, isn't that what he said on Tuesday?
It is what he said.
Here's the reality. We know
there are 29.5-point favorites. I don't believe that truly applies to this game.
I believe Ryan Day and this coaching staff would really love a game where they can get guys out in the third quarter. I think it would be very important for this team to do that this week. The knock them out, leave no doubt thing. Go back to last Saturday against Penn State put on that tape for your guys and say, you see this team that walked out of the tunnel in the second half? Be that team as soon as the game starts. We will put you in the position to have that success that you did against Penn State in the second half, and let's stomp on some necks. I mean, honestly, like you need to get these guys out of the game. Lincoln Kenold needs to play. I mean, I know Dave Biddle asked that question on Tuesday, and it's like Ryan Day scoffs at it, but the question itself is not incorrect in its presumptions. Like, you have to get these guys some reps. You have to find out if the James Peoples light is coming on. So he needs more reps. You want to see, and then we'll find out on Wednesday. We'll talk about it on Snap Judgment, so you're going to get this in reverse. But, like, depending on the injury, who it is at guard, like, you need to get these guys in and out of games quickly. So I think that's got to be priority one this week. And I fully expect, just like we saw at Illinois, just like we saw at Wisconsin, Ohio State on the road coming out and just putting the foot down and going.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any possibility, because I know what Ryan Day's normal approach is, and he's not going to just substitute and use different personnel and dip into the depth in the first half just for no reason, assuming full health. But I wonder if this particular scenario, going on the road, and we've seen occasionally Carnell Tate come off the field a little gingerly. We've seen that with Brandon Ennis.
He did it on Saturday. Yeah.
We know that is happening with the offensive line at this time of the year. Edric Houston, Kenyatta Jackson have had various bumps and bruises. It's a long season. I wonder if there's any possibility, because this is not the normal Ohio State approach, where he might incorporate more depth early, which is a reflection of the just win the game approach. Not a wholesale change, not starters, you must get up by 28 and then you can sit down. Maybe just sprinkling it in, knowing that you're going to win in over 4 quarters. Your talent disparity is so large that you can do just about whatever you want. If maybe there's a limitation of reps for some of those starters before the game gets out of hand. I don't really expect it. I wonder, maybe there's a few positions, though, where Ohio State would actually do that this week.
We've not seen much in the way of load management this year from Ryan Day, but, I mean, on Saturday, Carnell Tate took a pretty aggressive shot to his shoulder where he had, he didn't take, the ground hit him pretty hard. And, like, you wonder, like, if Quincy Porter's back this week, do you really need to, like, so we'll see. I mean, I don't think that none of these guys want to not play. That's the challenge, because if you walked up to Carnell Tate and you said, hey, we have an opportunity on Saturday for you to maybe just take the day off.
Nope.
And he'll be like, no, thanks.
Pass.
But also, Ryan Day, it would be not in his best interest when he's talked in the last 5 days about the Heisman, about awards, about wanting to promote his players, to go out there and say, guys, you don't need to play this week, because those things are important, not in the big picture of winning a national championship, but in the program building and Ryan Day's reputation and the program reputation. So there's a little bit of a catch-22 there, I think, where you have to try to find the balance between get them out quick or get them out early. And I don't know which one makes more sense.
You've talked about that with the awards and the Heisman with Lincoln Riley before, and Ryan Day's never seemed to me to be all that bothered by it. And I know that the private conversations and the recruiting discussions are a little bit different, but he hasn't needed to point to that to recruit players like Julian Sayin, or to, continue to build and develop high-level quarterback play at the college ranks and get those guys in position for the NFL draft and continue to assemble the most talented roster in the sports. He's done it without some of these awards. Now, you've seen him in certain positions, Bolitnikoff, Remington, etc. But I'm not sure that he's actually. Part of the reason maybe we've never seen any of the websites that we are right now for Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith is because Ryan Day that's been so far down on his priority list. I don't even think until this year it was ever even on it at all.
It wasn't, but it's also, he knows that if they beat Michigan in 22, C.J. Stroud wins the Heisman. So there's things that, it doesn't make a lot of sense for him to get up there and stump and complain, because the thing that had to happen for that to occur
was on the field.
It was on the field. Yeah. So, you can't really bitch and moan about it, I think you go into this type of situation in the new era of college football, NIL, all of winning awards opens doors for players to make money. And so, it's easier to tell Julian Sayin, hey, next year when you come back for year 3, we're going to pay you X amount, we're going to pay you what Jeremiah Smith's getting this year if Nissan's footing the bill, So
if you've got the Heisman house,
right,
you're already a member. That helped Bryce Young at once upon a time with Alabama, when his compensation was not primarily coming from the program.
So it's not as important in the building, but it is important for the outward perception as a program. And as I said on the live show on Monday, like Lincoln Riley has made a career being an average coach just by being able to run Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts out there and say, well, this is our guy.
Yeah. No, that's all totally fair. I also thought that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee did a very fair job on Tuesday with the first release. And we tend to avoid that conversation because we know it doesn't actually matter. When Ryan Day says that he's not going to watch it, I fully believe that. And the on-field results are what resonate the most. But at least it was the first time that we got a feel for what this selection committee was going to prioritize. And it surprised me in a lot of ways that it wasn't all of the bitching and moaning, as you said, from the SEC to take the strength of record and these new metrics that they wanted to reflect that would have potentially put Texas A&M in line to be number one on Tuesday night. They went with Ohio State. Indiana is number two. And I am intrigued by how that bracket shapes up because it looks very much like what Ohio State's path was last year if they had been in the top four, because you have Oregon and Texas Tech as it sits currently would be waiting for them in the Rose Bowl. Likely the winner of Alabama and Georgia, another SEC power waiting in the semifinal. It's an interesting setup if it plays out like it does now. So I'm giving them credit for doing that. We don't have to criticize and remain skeptical about their motivations for how they ranked 1 through 25, although number 25 shouldn't be on there because Tennessee sucks.
Miami should
is there
be 18.
Is there anything that you took out of Tuesday night?
All I'm taking out of it is that I think these people understand, like there's the eye test, which obviously plays a big part in this, but like the eye test that I think they were most concerned about is the eyes of people watching them. Because if you didn't have the defending national champion, the unbeaten 8-0 team,
Texas ranked number 10,
has not had a game yet this year where they've even struggled to win, and you don't put them number one, considering they have the 4 or 5 biggest stars in the entire game. And if you went out and dove into metrics and dove into analytics and said, well,
also the metrics tend to like Ohio State.
Arkansas scored 42 points against Texas A&M. Like that matters just as much. Arkansas they firing their coaches. Like that's, and I know like Ohio State played a team that fired its coach, but Buckeyes didn't give up 42 points to Penn State.
They did not.
If Ohio State had given up 42 to Penn State and won 44-42,
or Washington,
I would have been like, cool, put them number 2 behind Indiana. But like, you watch the games, and if you're watching the games, as good as Texas A&M has been and as resolute as they've been, and like their best win is against a 2-loss Notre Dame. Ohio State's best win is against a 2-loss Texas, but one of those losses is obviously to Ohio State. So like, what do you? Any other? Now the problem I have, and I think most people have had this problem in the last couple of years of the new committee, is that the logic for what they're choosing is going to change next week, and that because there is no hard and fast rule of saying, well, this is how we're going to do this every single week. They're going to be like, well, this week we decided. So if Ohio State goes to Purdue and goes to West Lafayette on Saturday and scuffles to a 21-10 win or something ugly like we've seen in West Lafayette over the years, then it just opens the door to be, well, so this is all you needed. They could barely beat Purdue. And so then they'll change it next week. And that doesn't matter because Ryan Day doesn't care. And this program isn't changing what their goal is, which is to just win the games.
If you looked at that bracket and the 12 teams that are in it right now, who do you believe is because we talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the week, everything that you have to have in the toolbox to beat Ohio State, which is basically everything because this is the most complete team in the country right now. Who do you think is the biggest threat to beat Ohio State?
I think it's probably Alabama. I mean, I like A&M. I like Marcel Reed, but I don't think he's a guy that under extreme pressure is going to be able to handle some of the stuff that Ty Simpson has shown that he can handle this year for Alabama. They have obviously legitimate deep threats in Ryan Williams. They run the ball. They have a big offensive line. Like, I think that they're the type of team that you can get into a fist fight with. And if you are stopping the run, they can throw. If you are stopping the pass, they can run. So I think it's Bama. I'm also intrigued about Oregon, and we'll see. They got I think that's a sneaky tough game this weekend for them at Iowa. But what you have there is a team that's obviously, if they run into Ohio State again in the Rose Bowl, like the motivation there is going to be pretty insane. And Dan Lanning is obviously a bit of a psychopath. Anybody who watched his post-game press conference stuff.
Do you think is the guy out there not a little bit of that?
I'm talking like psychopath.
Oh yeah,
he was a little bit keyed up, and
performance enhancing style.
I just wonder what Dan Lanning might get into before before that game.
The line's on the field.
He's really
a tennis racket.
I'm sure Oregon is just hoping they get a chance to play against Ohio State again. They'll have Evan Stewart back maybe by that time. Like there's Decory Moore. They've got things. If Dante Moore is able to get time to throw, then all of a sudden you never know. So I think those are the two teams. And again, when we look at the bracket that came out on
Tuesday, will not be the bracket.
Right. It can't be the bracket because it doesn't have the ACC champ in it. And it doesn't have the Power 5.
I'm talking about the one that's actually out there. So Memphis is the 12 and Virginia is the 11 as we stand here currently. Right. But it doesn't change anything because they're not in the top 12. So you can look and take 8 and 9 and actually put that in there. So that's Texas Tech and Oregon at this moment. And 4, but all that is going to change, especially in the Big Ten, as you mentioned. Like Oregon has to go play Iowa. Iowa can play itself into the field.
Oregon has to play Iowa, USC, and Washington to finish their season. Like they've got a road.
So. Both Iowa and Washington can play themselves into the field. It's an interesting dynamic, and it's also why it's frustrating that this comes out with 4 games left in the regular season because so much can change. And the only thing that wouldn't change is if Ohio State wins out, and that would include a win over Indiana in the Big Ten championship game. I did get a couple of people had asked about this. The Big Ten champion will go to the Rose Bowl again. So that
no matter what,
that part of the path will not change.
Yeah, and even if Ohio State stumbled and lost to Indiana, they're still going to the Cotton Bowl or something like that, assuming they didn't lose anywhere else. So
believe it would definitely be the Cotton Bowl.
Right. So there's the bracket's going to change a lot. Again, that's why we generally don't talk about these things because it's somewhat irrelevant until December the 8th or 9th or whatever it is. So they got it right. They did a good job. I think Iowa deserved to be where they are, despite the fact that they're not in the AP polls because AP voters are obviously looking at them going, oh, their quarterback went 6 weeks without throwing a touchdown pass, but they kept winning games. So I think it's weird that we're just entering a time in sports where winning is not valued as much as what you look like when you win. Because the losses, you're like, well, who cares if we lost? Did you see how good we looked when we won? I think winning's supposed to be what matters.
I think that does check a lot of the boxes. And I think that is why it's been so important. It's been adjusting expectations, adjusting evaluations for Ohio State, that they have fully embraced the NFL-style approach, the just win that you mentioned. That has to be the way we talk about this team. That doesn't mean that there aren't things that they can improve. And we have talked about the special teams, and we have broke down the running game and had questions about right guard, but it's still very nitpicky. When I say that they're the most complete team in the country, I don't know how there's an argument against that.
No, and I think what's interesting is seeing the different style, especially at the top of the Big Ten, because Indiana is clearly going out every week with one goal in mind, and that is to obliterate everyone they play.
Stroke Sig's ego.
Stroke Sig's ego. Make sure that the style points are there. Indiana wasn't being discussed as a do they belong or not item a year ago because they didn't win by enough points in the games they won.
It was their schedule.
It was because of their schedule and because the one team they played in the season that had talent above them blew their doors off in Columbus. So, it's obviously a different conversation this year. They went to Oregon and they won. They went to Iowa and they won. They've done the tough parts. So it's interesting to see how that will matter. I don't think anybody staying on the committee and that stuff. If Ohio State continues to win out and Indiana continues to win out, there's no world where Ohio State is going to be jumped by Indiana heading into the Big Ten championship game. No one thinks Indiana, talent-wise, is better than Ohio State. So, yeah,
but they're going to play on the field.
Yeah. But why even have the conversation where it's like, well, maybe Indiana looks better this week? They're not. They're not better. They're a good team. They're well coached, but we saw what happened in November a year ago, and
I thought we weren't going to get worked up about it. Here you go.
I'm not worked up about it. Okay, I'm just thinking about the weather, and I want Ohio State fans.
What is the one thing that you remember most about Ross-Ade Stadium of all your visits?
I almost died. I was assaulted by a trash can.
Yeah.
And there was a tornado, right before we got into our parking spot.
Yeah.
And then the last time we were there, we got into a parking garage instead of parking on the golf course, and then there was supposed to be a shuttle to take us to the stadium. It took an hour for it to get there. And the driver, remember, he had no idea where he was going and went
I think we missed the pregame keys because of it.
Yeah, so it was just, I'm always, this is apropos of nothing. One of the things that's fun about covering Ohio State is seeing the way other schools around the conference react when they realize how big the Ohio State beat is. because like they've done this now multiple times. It's crazy that that teams are still not prepared for it. Kudos to them. So in 2018, we were at Purdue. We were in like a media, the photography workroom was like a closet, basically.
That's a generous term for it.
Right off of like the concourse. And
I think it was more like a cabinet.
And another photographer had about $30,000 worth of equipment stolen right from there by somebody walking in and taking it out. That is no longer the setup there. Thankfully, they addressed that. But, and I still feel bad for Dan after all these years, but that was 7 years ago. And they've done nice things. The stadium last time we were there 2 years ago was really cool.
I like it.
I thought that the train entrance, the Joe Tiller entrance was cool. Like they've done a nice job. I like Barry Odom. I like what they're doing. I think it's a program that is going to be competitive, but they won't be on Saturday.
Letterman Rose, Mick Walker said that maybe Ryan Day is so complimentary of Barry Odom because his son is a high-level recruit.
I mean, RJ is certainly being recruited by Purdue. He's one of them. I think Ryan Day is complimentary of everyone because he is a coach and knows that it stinks when people talk trash about you that don't know you or are not objectively viewing what you have accomplished. To this point, Purdue has not accomplished anything under Barry Odom. But it's year one, and they're fighting. They're playing hard. What is the one thing on Saturday that I think, this is not a bold prediction show, but we both assume Ohio State will win.
I am going to pick Ohio State to win, that's true.
What is something that has to happen in this game that you will be like, okay, this game was a success for Ohio State?
Something that has to happen. I would like to see another individual 100-yard rushing performance. Purdue's rush defense, there's been a lot of games where this has been true, but Purdue they're especially egregious on the ground. And because you can flip and say, well, they're not too bad against the pass, and they have the same number of tackles for loss actually as Ohio State, which that stat blew my mind. But teams just know that they don't have to throw the football on Purdue, and plus you can't rely on the weather if you go and play them in West Lafayette. It's just like, we're going to run the ball down their throats. I think this is a game, Heisman stuff, individual stats, throw that out the window. I'm not sure that this is a game where I actually would like to see them commit to expanding the rushing attack. If the Wisconsin game was Ryan Day saying, all right, let's see where this is at with the passing game. Let's do this, that, and the other thing. For Julian saying, let's see the different receivers. Let's get everybody involved. I'd like to see what a more creative rush scheme looks like. And maybe the limitations at guard will prevent that. I don't know. But if it's Bo Jackson or if they feel like they need to commit more fully to an opportunity for James Peoples, C.J. Donaldson, Isaiah West, doesn't really matter to me. I think that one person getting an opportunity to go out there and lead the rushing attack and execute a variety of different looks against a team that should be susceptible to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to put more stock in a productive rushing attack this week. As I've said through the first 8 games, it hasn't concerned me, and I understand the justification, I understand the way Ohio State is playing. If you're getting to the point, you're running out of opportunities to work on it before a game where you know that they're going to talk about it in nonstop every single moment before they get to the big house, like this is one where I think I probably would like to see that more than I have previously.
And I think there's a little bit of extra credence put on that because it's directly after watching Michigan run the ball against Purdue and do whatever Jordan Marshall wanted and ran for almost 200 yards. Like, if you just, like, there's a ton of old stupid adages and cliches in football, but like, if you just keep hitting the rock, eventually it's going to break. Like, this is the type of weekend and the type of game where that rock should break for Ohio State in the run game. I
think it was doing that in the second.
Yeah, I mean, it was on its way. And so now you hope that you build on that and hope that the injuries at guard, whatever we're going to find out on Wednesday night, will not mitigate it too much. But to me, I think it's important to, like, it's somebody other than Bo Jackson, to be honest. Like, I think Bo Jackson, we saw what Jordan Marshall did. If you just give one guy the ball 30 times, he's going to have that 180, 200 yards probably against this defense.
Yeah, but I don't see that as a negative. I mean,
it'd be nice to see what type of workload these guys can handle. But at the same time, like, to me, with the Ohio State run game and this idea that it's running back by committee, I want to know who that second guy really is. We know Bo Jackson's guy 1. So who is guy 2?
Yeah.
And is this the type of weekend where somebody says, hey, I'm RB2, we're moving forward because...
Hey, guy number 1.
Hey, guy number 1.
I'm guy number 2.
Guy number 2 means the football. So who is it and who makes that? And then for me, the other thing in this game, I would like to see a replication of the way Ohio State got after the football against Illinois, because Ryan Brown, who I like the cut of his jib. I like the way he runs around and plays like a man with his head cut off, or a chicken with his head cut off, not a man.
That guy would not be very effective.
Yeah, well, chickens can run around with their head cut off. Dudes cannot.
No. I did see a headless horseman at Disney World.
Okay. But the best quarterback Ohio State's played this year was Luke Altmaier, and they forced 3 turnovers in that game. They made things happen. I would like to see, I know maybe I sound selfish. Maybe I sound greedy. I don't want 3 and outs and punts for Purdue. I want one play Buckeye ball. I want turnovers.
They don't have Devin Mockabee.
I want explosive plays on defense, and I want to see. I know this defense can just strangle people and suffocate them, but I want plays.
Decapitation.
I need a defensive touchdown. I need a pick 6 from one of these cornerbacks. That's what I really need more than anything.
Okay, well, we'll see who Birm predicts to get a pick 6 when we are back with a Friday version of the beat, a Freaky Friday version. Some bold predictions coming as we get one day closer to Ohio State traveling to Purdue. Again, that is a 1 p.m. Eastern time.
You should be buying tickets and going to this if you're listening to this show.
Kickoff. And you can join us right there in West Lafayette if you want to. I hear the forecast is looking sunny and gorgeous and beautiful. I personally don't believe it, but let's all go find out together. And if not, again, that game is going to be on BTN on Saturday afternoon. Thanks for sticking with us all week long as we get ready for that trip for Buckeyes and Boilermakers. This has been a 3 Thoughts Thursday on the Beat. He's Birm. I'm Austin. We'll see you later.